Thanks again to Jamie for letting us use that mix. We are in game week 29, the game week that everyone's been dreading, the blank game week where there's only 4 fixtures. I know free hit's going to be popular this week, so we're going to do a bit of a free hit special and focus on that. But there's also been a few injuries that have made it easier in some ways for some people that have the free hit, the choices that they make, because it's been some popular players that have been injured, so we're going to talk about that. I'm joined as always by the cheerful man himself. Hopefully back to a few winners this week. It's Mindy.
Not cheerful. 30 points this week. Fucking disgrace. Just having half the points of like the people ahead of you is an awful feeling. So not cheerful. Winners on the horses don't mean anything on this podcast.
All right. Well, if anyone else still wants to tune in after that kind of positive intro, then please do.
They're not here for positivity. Everyone loves a car crash. It's like once a month. Sorry, when I come on and with an awful mood after a savage game week, it's like watching a cyclist come off their bike when you're driving your car. That's what it's like. It's like one of those things you can't help but laugh at.
Right, we've got an insight into the sinister mind of Mindy. You were closing the gap as well. Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, I think not having a Chelsea defender, not having a United defender, and then not having one of the City boys that got attacking returns. Just to put paid to my week basically. But yeah, this podcast, as you say, is all about the blank and the what people wildcards coming up. Game week 33, there's another blank. So yeah, I'll quickly jazz through the running order before we get into the chit chat before we forget. So you've mentioned injuries there. So yeah, there's been some high profile injuries. We'll talk about those players that are going to be out, and then maybe a Grealish coming back, which shakes things up. Free hit week is popular for loads of people, but there's also the option just to take hits even if you've got your free hit. So we're going to look through the pros and cons of that. Whether it's worth saving it for a point later in the season or not. And then it comes to for people who have still got their wild card. Me and you both have our wild card. Game week 31 looks to be when people are thinking of doing it. So the strategy in terms of players that are brought in this week and how that works out with game weeks 30 before you wild card. There's some strategy around that, and then thinking about how to navigate game week 33 with the Spurs and City players you'll have in on your wild card. Thoughts on that as well. And then the main bit of the podcast will be running through our ideal free hit draft. So we both have you done one, by the way? Have you done a draft?
Yeah, it's in the running order, ready to go.
Sweet. Right. So we've both put together a draft of what if we were free hitting, what our ideal free hit team would be, and we'll go through that. And then 3 differentials as well, 3 players that we think people aren't looking at, which could have potential for people on free hit, and then that'll be it. Maybe some questions at the end if we've got time.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll run through the game week just gone, just because I didn't have as terrible game week as yourself. I got 53, which is about average was 43, so did okay in terms of that. I think the 10k was about 50, to be honest. I went up to 16,000 from 17,000, so not much of a shift. Like you say, Luke Shaw, Cancelo, I think the City United was the big ones, weren't they? Everyone seemed to blank who captained. It was a tough captain choice, wasn't it? It was Kane, Fernandes, Salah, and then they all ended up blanking. The only one who scored was Calvert-Lewin, but he was a bit of a rogue shout, but he did get his customary goal. He seems to have bounced back after his few blanks. So, yeah, looking forward to game week 29.
Yeah, so my week, 33 points. I had Kane captain, which was a bit unlucky. I think he had a couple of chances towards the end, but for large parts of the game, Tottenham just didn't really look like scoring in that game, did they? So yeah, it was a weird one, was it? For all, as you say, all the main captaincy options blanked, which rarely happens. And then
It's funny. It was obviously not just us, but in hindsight, when you look at that Leicester fixture now at home, Sheffield United, you're like, why didn't I put in Vardy? You got a trio assist, or even Kelechi, that would have been a bit rogue. But yeah, in hindsight, that fixture was the one to go at, wasn't it?
well, yeah, I just think it's the fact that there wasn't really an option necessarily to go for. Like people were all over Madison and Barnes, weren't they? But injuries ruled them out, and then sort of the focus just got taken off Leicester. I don't know if loads of people would have had a striker slot free to bring in. I guess if you free hitting, you could have brought in Vardy for a week, couldn't you? But
yeah, absolutely.
It was
yeah,
just,
the fixtures are good after this week as well.
Speaking of Leicester, the player that's getting chopped from my team sooner rather than later is Pereira, because he's just been an awful pick for me. Despite the fixtures Leicester have had, they've just kept conceding, and he's not delivered on any attacking potential. So I think it's
How
just
come he
been.
didn't? Oh, he got brought off at half time against Sheffield.
Exactly.
Can't catch a break.
And just like those extra 5 points would have made a massive difference. So my rank slipped from 68k to 102k, which is a sizable decline through the ranks. That, which is very annoying. But yeah, I've still got my free hit. I've still got my wild card. So I think I said last week I was aim was to get into the top 20k by the end of the season. I still think I can do that if I get the free hit and wild card right. But yeah, it's not a given, is it? But yeah, we'll talk about how best to use those chips if you've still got them, and also what people should do without the chips as well. So should we start with injuries?
Yeah. So the injury news this week's almost made it. I was talking last week that I wasn't going to play my free hit. I was just going to transfer around it and free hit later. But I think it's made my decision for me. I know Bamford might be fit, but Son's a big one, because that means you have to have an extra transfer to take him. I think I'd have 6 with 2 transfers, and it's almost like I need to stop being too clever and just play the chip, really. So yeah, that's kind of made my decision for me. If Bamford's out as well, that'll make it 100% easier. But I think I'm going to head that way. But there is one bit of good news. Obviously, them two, the big ones that are out. But Jackie Grealish has been seen back in training. He's obviously a popular fantasy choice. So that'll be interesting. Whether you bring him in this weekend on a free hit against Spurs is a different matter. But he's one that you're going to have a firm eye on for the run-in, especially when Aston Villa have got an extra game still to play against Everton. I know the fixtures aren't great, but he's been the standout pick all season, hasn't he, at that price?
Yeah, one of them, definitely. And I think he's playing to get in the England squad. He's not. He needs to show that he's recovered from this injury, so he's got a point to prove. Even though Aston Villa aren't really playing for much, they're not necessarily. I wouldn't say they're on the beach, but they're not like aiming for the top 4 or fighting relegation or anything. But Grealish still needs to impress Southgate a little bit, I reckon.
He's probably playing for a move as well, because I can't see him at Villa after this year. He's too good of a player, so he's firmly in the shop window, isn't he?
So, what would you say to people with Son who haven't got a free hit? Would you hold him, or would you?
He said the thing that helps is the international break, isn't it? So he'll probably be back after that. But I don't know. It depends if you can. Depends what your situation is. If you can get Bale in for someone else, not at the expense of Son, someone else who's not playing, then probably do that, I'd say. But I think
would you do you think Bale's still an attractive proposition without Son in the team?
I mean, he's had one bad game before that. He was flying, wasn't he? He can't let Arsenal playing well, and I know he wasn't great at all in that game, but Aston Villa aren't playing that well recently, as you say, on the beach. he's probably still one of the standout midfielders this week. And then they got Newcastle as well, straight off the back of that. So I think for a 2-week punt or a 1-week punt, if you're on a free hit, Bale's still right at the top of the list.
I think Son being out is quite a big blow to Tottenham's attacking potential, because
potentially
he's their top chance creator of recently, like 10 chances created for Tottenham, which is he's comfortably the player that's leading the creation for them. And I think, like we saw when Kane was out, like, Tottenham losing one of their main attackers just hurts them quite a lot. Like they looked awful without Kane. I wonder if it might be the same without Son, but we'll see. It does put me off a little bit, but yeah, I guess it's one for people to make their own judgment on, isn't it? Do you think they'll still score? And the other factor is coming up against Martinez, who
the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the thing that'll make it easier, I know Spurs are 2-0 up in the Europa League. We're recording on Thursday afternoon, so this is before the Europa League games. 2-0 up, so if he doesn't play that game, I know he didn't play the first leg, he came on, didn't he? So if he doesn't play, it'll probably make it easier just because he's fresh for the weekend. If he gets 90 this evening, then maybe it might change. If he plays 90 and he's bad as well, that might change things.
Yeah, because he just doesn't look to get 60 in the league, even when he's rested in Europa. Though he was rested in Europa last week, and then he still only got 60 against Arsenal. So I don't know. Maybe Mourinho will be more inclined to leave him on the pitch for more minutes with Son being out. But I don't. Did you watch the North London derby?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
looked like
Arsenal.
Lamella and Lucas Moura just looked to have like a lot more energy in that game. I wonder if Mourinho might just like favour that. He is that sort of manager, isn't he? Just likes players that run around a lot and make loads of fouls and.
Well, Lamella will be banned, won't he?
Yeah. But I think I still, even with Son out, I still think Bale might just only get 60 or 65 minutes though in this game.
Yeah, not bad shout. So you're not swayed by him on wildcard? Oh no, free it. Sorry.
Well, we'll come to that at the end, won't we? But yeah, I've my initial draft is without him.
Interesting.
So that's injury sorted. So the next part of the running order is to free hit or to take hits. So you're leaning towards using your free hit now. Yeah,
purely because we've got the luxury of having both chips left. So obviously everyone's not in our situation, but the blank in 33 is obviously Spurs and City. And if we free hit in 29, 30 probably get by 30, 31, because 30's got quite similar fixtures. I mean, people that play this weekend have got good fixtures in 30. And I almost built my team towards 30 to 29. The only thing that hampered it was Son and Bamford being out. So when 30 comes around, I'll have good fixtures. So I'll probably do that. And then 31, I'll probably wildcard, yes, but have one eye on 33 with the wildcard. So I wouldn't have 6 players from Spurs and City, for example. I'd have 3 or less or 4 at the very max and transfer one out 33. So I think for us, the option is a lot easier. It's when you have one of those chips or none of those chips when it gets a bit trickier.
Yeah, I think so. Just to touch on that while we're here, if you haven't got the free hit and you're looking how best to navigate this week, I think you need to make sure the players you bring in for the blank are players that you want for the next few as well. Like, they've got good fixtures for the next 4 or 5. So at least then, especially if you're taking hits for them, because say for example, who's a good example for that? A player that maybe, well, we'll come to it on the free hit when we do the free hit draft. But there's some players that are good options for the free hit week, but then they haven't got good fixtures then afterwards. So you wouldn't want them. Like those sort of players, you need to look at that and just think, is that player worth a hit?
Yeah, I think if you don't have free hit but you have a wild card, I'd be more inclined to take a few hits this week because, like I said, people who have a fixture in 29 have a good fixture in 30, so then you can wild card them back out in 31.
But then if you're
teams
going to
like
be
Leeds and
wildcarding,
stuff.
if you're going to be wildcarding as soon as game week 31, then if you're taking hits, then that -4, you've only got 2 weeks for it to pay off.
True, but then an appearance is 2, so you're already gaining 2 on something that you want to have. Anything else is a bonus, really. If you look at it that way, all you need is a return, whether it's a clean sheet, assist, or a goal, and you've got your hit back, really. So if you're getting a player that's playing, unless they have an absolute shocker, you only need 2 points really to justify it. 2 extra points, that is.
Yeah, I hope they don't get a yellow card or concede 1-2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, if they get thrashed and they get sent off, then it's another matter. But I'd always be inclined to. And upon reflection, we talked about these fixtures not being great, but then some of them have actually developed okay. I mean, the Brighton Newcastle one, I think Brighton target them. I think that'll be a good fixture for them against Newcastle at home, because if we go off the XG that we talked about recently, Brighton should be 3rd or 4th in the league, and they put in a really good performance against Southampton. Or Southampton aren't doing very well, but I think that's emerged as a good fixture. I think Spurs has emerged as a good fixture because Aston Villa aren't great. Might be different if Jack Grealish is back, but Aston Villa really fell off a cliff. And then that Fulham Leeds one, I think there's going to be goals. I think the Fulham defense, I know they improved recent weeks, but then the City game showed that it's still quite vulnerable. But then you also fancy them to get a goal against that Leeds defense. So I think these fixtures have actually developed okay. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I wasn't as confident, but I think there's points this week for sure.
I think Fulham at home though are decent defensively, aren't they? Was the City game, was that away for them, or were you at home for
that? Cannot remember. No, we were away.
Oh, right, okay.
I know City's a different proposition to Leeds, but
I actually think that'll be a low-scoring game. I think Fulham, when they're against like this sort of opposition, they do manage to keep it tight. And Leeds' defensive numbers have improved a lot recently as well. They're actually not conceding all the massive amount of big chances they were earlier in the season, which was in evidence against Chelsea. I don't think anyone was expecting that game to be 0-0 at the weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually a tight game, that Fulham Leeds. And it means a lot to Fulham as well, because they really need the win. So I don't think they'll be going into it with a sort of a gung-ho approach. I think they'll be very, very pragmatic. Whereas Leeds don't necessarily need the points in the same way Fulham do. So I think that's something to think about as well. Like, will that make it cagey, the way Fulham approach it?
True. But if Leeds do get an early goal, it completely changes the complex of the game, because Fulham have to go for it. So, I mean, if the game develops and it's 0-0 at half-time, 0 after 60 minutes, it suddenly becomes quite an important point, doesn't it, for Fulham? So, I could see your reasoning. But I think if there is an early goal in that fixture, especially for Leeds, it will open up.
Fair. Yeah. What was I going to say? So with my team, I currently have 6 players. That
I've got the same, because Son's out. I've got 6 as well.
I've got 2 free transfers. So my current thinking is just to use my 2 free transfers to get 8, or to use my 2 free transfers and take a hit to get 9. And I'm not really set either way on that. Like, I think if Bamford turns out not to be fit or not to make it, then maybe I will just free hit as well. But I think if Bamford is fit, because I don't have Son, if Bamford's fit, I'm happy just to roll in with 8 or 9. Because I think quite a lot of these fixtures are going to be low scoring. I'm not sure there is going to be loads to go at. And just to touch on your point on Brighton, like, I just think this is the sort of game which they just fuck up somehow. They've just done it all season.
True.
So I just there's a reason they've been in the top 4 for XG all season, but they're 18th in the table. There's just something obviously not right there.
Right, so if you listen to Mindy's advice, log off FPL and tune back in after the international break. Forget about it for 2 weeks.
Well, I actually think the best game could be West Ham Arsenal. So that's where a lot of my focus is for the players I've got in my free hit draft. But yeah, we'll come to that later. So
Interesting.
like if you were in my position, would you be happy with 8 players, or would you take a hit and get 9?
Well, because I'm the same as you. I had 7 when Son was fit, and then I was going to play 3 with a hit, so I would have had 10. But I just think, when would you play your free hit? Because I think that wild card means we can almost set up a team for the blanks that come in 33. I don't think, is there any more doubles after that? I think there's Villa Everton, isn't there?
Well, I think on my wild card, I think I'm still going to have probably a 3 City and 3 City and 1 Tottenham asset. So that's 4 players that I wouldn't have. But then the other thing is, it's not just about being able to navigate it easily. It's like all the players that you can just have for 1 week in that week. Like the player pool is massive. Like the biggest decisions for this week seems to be like people weighing up like Lingard versus Trossard and stuff like that. Whereas in Game Week 33,
yeah, you got Salah versus De Bruyne or something.
Yeah, you can
well,
get.
obviously not De Bruyne, but yeah.
So I think you need to look at it and think like the points. Like I think people who free hitted in Game Week 18. Most people, not a lot of people ended up with like a sizable amount of points more than people like me and you just sort of went in with a couple less players. So you have to look at it and think the points that I'm going to gain from the free hit with the players I'm bringing in, is it comfortably more than what I'm going to have otherwise? Because I think there will be there is still going to be more blanks, like especially if they move around those games for getting fans back in the stands, which they're talking about for the last 2 games of the season. That's going to create another big double game week at some point.
Yeah, there's rumours that might just be, they might just shift the game week though, because it's going to be it's going to be all 10 fixtures, isn't it? Just played midweek. So it'll just be like game week 36 or 37 or something.
Would it work like that? Would they not have to? Would that not make a double though?
What they are going to do is, I might be wrong, is they're going to shift game week 37, which is Saturday 15th of May, to the midweek, like all 10 fixtures.
And would that just be its own game week then?
Yeah, that would be game week 37. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to shift the whole program just because everyone's at home twice, because it's the week of when they change the restrictions, isn't it? But I completely understand your point. Now, I was firmly behind you. It's just the Son injury just made it a bit different for me, because I think if I can free hit and then get Son back in 30 against Newcastle as well, that's very attractive as well, because the people who are not free hitting are going to be taking Son out this week.
Yeah, I think the other thing to say is that another argument against what I'm arguing, to play devil's advocate, is that say if I use my free hit in game week 33, there's a chance that my normal team that I have from my wild card could outscore my free hit team. Whereas this week, it's very unlikely that a free hit team is going to do worse than a normal team, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because like people that have only got like 5 or 6 players playing because of the blank, if they free hit, that's 4 or 5 extra. That's 5 extra players. It's very unlikely that their free hit team is going to do worse than their original team that only had 6 or 7. Whereas at another point in the season, you do run that risk of bringing in players who like on paper have the best fixture and whatever, and getting in all the best sort of premium options, the big hitters. But if it's a week like just gone where all the big options blank, out of nowhere you could end up with your free hit doing worse than your original team, which would be a bitter pill to swallow. So it's not an easy decision either way. I think I'll be thinking about it over the next 24 hours, see what the team news and injury stuff is. But I think my current plan is...
Hopefully you can have some sleep tonight. Sounds like you really...
Well, I think that does make it tricky, doesn't it? Not knowing like the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with those extra fixtures and when the next double is and all that sort of stuff. It's like you're trying to make a plan and someone's blindfolded you. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how everyone's playing it.
So, in terms of the next bit of the running order, like we've already touched on the wild card and Gameweek 33, but you're thinking wild card 31 still.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a given for me, just because, like I said, my team in the majority was set up for this game week. It's only a few injuries that have kind of put pay to that, and a lot of those fixtures this week, like I said, have really good fixtures in 30. Leeds play Sheffield United, for example. Aston Villa at home to Fulham. West Ham away at Wolves, which on paper isn't that tricky of a fixture now. Spurs away at Newcastle. So everyone who plays in 30 that's got a good fixture, other than Brighton away at United, which is one to think about if you bring in a Brighton player this week. They have a good fixture in 30, but then their fixtures almost kind of fall off a cliff, like Aston Villa, Leeds, especially West Ham as well. They got tougher on. So,
but the thing is, if you're free hitting this week now, all the players that you're bringing in for this week, they won't be in your team for 31.
Yeah, but I still got
30. Sorry, for 30. So you'll have one for each.
Yeah, I'll still have. Like I said, I'll still have Son back, so I'll have 7 players who were supposed to be playing this week. And then the people that come back are like Fernandez and stuff, who've got a really good fixture. So, yeah, I think that's going to be easier. I think if you've definitely dead-headed your team for this week, 29, and you're not playing your free hit, then 31 does look like an attractive position to play your wild card. And you kind of want to, when you play your wild card, you want to have, what does that leave you with? That'll leave you with 8 game weeks. And that's almost like a big difference to play your wild card. If you play it too late, it's almost like, what's the point? Like you kind of build your team for 5 to 6 game weeks, don't you?
Yeah. I'm just I'm just wondering. Some people might be thinking, why not just wild card straight after this week? But as you say, it's the looking at the fixtures, and if you've got players
if you've got triple Leeds and Aston Villa especially, then I'd hold out for it because they've got 2 great fixtures.
Interesting. Yeah. I think the fixture that stands out massively in Gameweek 30 is Chelsea West Brom. Chelsea got West Brom at home. That looks very
like clean sheet central, doesn't it?
Well, I just think it could be a bit of a. Like Chelsea could run up a score in that one as well, because West Brom, like, their morale must be through the floor now after the loss at the weekend. They can't have much hope of staying up. So I think if Chelsea get an early goal in that, I think it'll be a case of 4 or 5, something like that. So yeah,
they look dead. And just to touch on the wildcard, small one. I was just looking at a wildcard team I'm playing 31, and there's a few very exciting differentials, which makes it even more exciting to play. Then I think Vardy's got a great run. Jota, who's back for fitness, and Kai Havertz. I don't know if you've seen him the last few games, but he's been brilliant. He was really good against Atletico, and he's playing false 9. So yeah, I think it's a good time to play it. And like it's a week after that fixture against West Brom, but he's one that I'm going to be bringing in.
Yeah, well, speaking of Kai Havertz, we run him at the weekend to score, weren't we, when we saw he was playing up front?
Yeah, I know. I was in the Peak District with no signal. I come back like to a 0-0. I thought, is it broken? 0-0, Chelsea Leeds. Fucking hell.
What made it worse is that, again, he sort of played well, but just couldn't finish. Like he had 4 shots on target, which it's just
yeah,
like
it's almost like
him and Werner. Yeah, I think I messaged you and just said, like, Tuchel just needs to keep them on the training ground and just he just needs to, like, starve them. Don't let them have their tea until they've put 10 balls into the corner of the net. Every shot just seems to be like straight at the keeper.
You'd hope. Well, people have been hoping that with Werner for 28 game weeks, that when one goes in, they'll start to fly. But yeah, you don't know. But hopefully, like, they're both classy players and the team's in such good form. Surely a Chelsea attacker is going to start to put them away.
Yeah, hopefully. So Havertz does look appealing, doesn't he, though, for that price? 8.2 like $1 million cheaper than Werner. So
Yeah, Jota as well. I thought he played well against Wolves, scored, so he's back. I think the template will start to shift the next few weeks. It's quite a critical time.
So the important thing to mention before we move on to the free hit drafts is just, as you'll see now, it's in the FPL fixtures. Game week 33, Tottenham and City don't play because they're in the League Cup final. So keep that in your mind with what you're doing for the next few weeks, especially if you don't have your wildcard still.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Fulham.
What we were saying last week was to have the 3 cheapest City players, weren't we? Just because of rotations through the roof at the moment. Is that what you'd still recommend?
Yeah, in my wildcard drafts, yeah, definitely. I think it's Diaz, and then 2 cheaper ones. There's an argument for De Bruyne. He scored an absolute cracker midweek, but like you say, you don't with the City one, especially when they wrap up the league, you'll think Pep will start to wrap De Bruyne and Cotton Wool, and I think Foden, Mahrez, they're starting to be the ones that look quite exciting. You fancy them to play more in the league, so yeah, I think that's the strategy to go down.
Actually, so yeah, thinking about that last week when we talked about coming off of big on City defense, and you were advocating coming off Stones and Cancelo just before they pulled at the weekend. So any listeners that listened to you last week have been fucked over.
I didn't say last week. I was just saying in the future. Right. Cancelo is someone that I'm going to come off, but I think with just the way that Pep is, I think Diaz will still play even though we wrap up the league, because if he's on the bench and we start to ship goals, like he won't want that to start leaking into performances in the cup. So I do think that Diaz will still be nailed. I could be wrong, but I think he'll want to keep those clean sheets. But yeah, going forward, I think it's going to be anyone's guess.
Oh, fire alarm just started going off. Hopefully that's just a test. Oh my god. This is podcast
this is live.
exclusive.
This is live recording.
Oh my god.
Who's burnt the sausages?
It's gone. But that sound there, that was the sound that was going on off in my head all weekend when my when my scores were slowly petering out into nothing with my game week 28 team. Thankfully someone's sorted out whatever that was. So yeah, I think that's a good reminder just to get straight into the main bit of the podcast, the ideal free hit teams. So
yeah, I've not spent as much time as it. We'll probably, because we're going to click these up for Twitter as well, go through it. So it's probably best that we just run through our team, like from keeper to attacker, and then I'll clip them both up separately. So you want to go first, or?
No, yeah. So what I'll do is that you go first, and for the clips, like if you go through your team, and then if there's anything I disagree with, I'll ask you a question on it, like why that player or whatever, and then you can like give your reasoning, and then that'll be one clip, and then we'll go into mine.
All right, sounds good. So in there, I think I know you're not keen on the old Brighton, but I think the standout keeper for me is Sanchez. I think that's the optimum one for a clean sheet this weekend. And then Brighton defender, I know Veltman's doing well, but I think the injury to Burn at the weekend, Veltman pushed into centre-back, and I think the wing-back was where he's offering the assist and goal potential. I think Gross came on and played wing-back, so I think Lewis Dunk's the standout there just because the headers in the box. He's on free kicks as well. Obviously, that one against Southampton was ruled out, but I think he's the standout. And then Reguilon probably away at Aston Villa. I know Aston Villa aren't doing too well at the moment, so he's probably the one there. And then Cresswell. We talked last week, he's top defender points now, isn't he? I know Arsenal isn't the greatest fixture on paper, but if you're playing a free hit, you'd be wrong to dismiss that, really. With even if they don't keep a clean sheet, you've got your corners and your free kicks. At least it'll be exciting whenever he's swinging one in with his left peg. So that's probably a solid defence, that I'd say. And then midfield, it gets a bit trickier. I've got Bale, Aubameyang, Trossard, who I think's stepped it up recently. He scored a goal at the weekend. And Rafinha, again, he's ticking over nicely. And then Kane up front, Madger's the one. I know a few podcasts have touted him this weekend just because that Leeds defence. They've tightened up a bit, but he's looked really good. He didn't play against City, so he's almost if he was rested for this fixture in mind, even though it was a week break, which is a bit weird. But he's been playing really well. I'd fancy him to play. And then Bamford, if he's fit, Bamford got to be in on a Fulham game. And then if he isn't fit, hopefully Bielsa will reveal on his presser. But I think it'll be Antonio or Watkins. Are probably edge towards Antonio. But yeah, I think that's a solid enough team that people can get to regardless of their team value. Because I think anyone who's playing a free hit this weekend, you're going to have a lot of team value on the bench. It means you can have some starting players on the bench, but in case your players don't play. But yeah.
So yeah, time for me to rip into it. Is it? Have you got anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to say about
it? No, I think that's.
Right. So if you've gone 3-4-3. So you are expecting goals then this weekend.
I mean, if I'm playing my free hit, it's different to a long-term strategy. I know the points have been in defence all season, but I think it's just more exciting to have the attackers in. Would be if I'm playing my free hit, you want to have a bit of enjoyment, don't you? You don't want to be playing, unless you're Mindy, playing a 5-3-2. What is it?
Main other question would be Reguilon. Like if Grealish is fit, would he come out or would you keep him?
For bookings or just for goal potential? Because he's on the other side, isn't he? But
no, I mean, like his chances. I think the chances of a Tottenham clean sheet diminish quite a lot with Grealish playing.
Right, yeah. I thought you meant he might be getting sent off.
No,
but I don't know. I'd probably want 3 Spurs, and there's no real other. Unless you get a Lucas Moura shout, what you said. Maybe that is the way to go down, get Moura, Bale and Kane. But yeah, I'm trying to think of the other defenders that I'd have. Tierney, maybe.
Yeah. Well, before you start going through all the alternatives, you'll end up talking through my team. So last question then would be, if Bale does get some minutes tonight and doesn't look great, what would you do with him?
Maybe switch to Grealish if he's fit. Maybe.
Okay.
But we'll see. Or Lucas Moura.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that I can play him because I don't think I'll have him in my team in a wild card. It's probably my 1 week only to have Bale. So yeah, let's go for it.
Fair. All right. Well, that's the end of yours then for the clip. I'll go through. I'll go through mine. I'll copy and paste it quickly into the shared doc so you can see it as well. So, the start of my free hit team, if I was going to have one this week. So I'd stick with the main man, the OG of the keepers this season, Martinez. I think he's just primed to rack up some save points as well this week. Even if they concede, I think he could still make a few saves and get 3 bonus, as he has done in some other games this season. So, yeah, I'm going to stay loyal with the man who's served me well since my wild card earlier on in the season. And then I've gone for Dunk. Did you have Dunk? Yeah, I've gone for Dunk as my Brighton defender. Cresswell, you've touched on Cresswell, but I guess for the purpose of my clip here, I'll just say 10 assists, 10 clean sheets. He's had like 12. He's taken 12 corners in the last 4 weeks, so there's all of that assist potential to come from his set piece threat. So just a great option.
Yeah, every corner's threatening. So yeah.
Yeah, with Souček and Dawson trying to get their big heads on the end of them as well, especially. And then Tierney, I think Tierney's probably the best defender for this week. He's the top chance creator in Arsenal's team, so he's got attacking threat, and if they get a clean sheet with the way West Ham sort of set up against big teams, looking to keep it tight and not really attack until the last 10 minutes, which was what they did against United, I think there could be potential for a clean sheet and an attacking return for Tierney in that game. So yeah, and then I've gone for Dallas as well as a Leeds option because I think as I said before, I'm predicting that to be a low-scoring game, and Dallas will be in midfield again, which he has been most of the season now, despite being listed as a defender. So I think he's shown, not for a while now, but he's shown earlier in the season that he has that attacking threat from his position. So I think he's a good option still for a free hit draft. And then I've gone for 4. So that's 4 defenders I've gone for. So I'm going for 4-4-2. So my 4 midfielders are Aubameyang, if he doesn't, depending on how many minutes he gets tonight, is what I'd say. I think with Arsenal having their game at home, I think that's in his favour, as opposed to, like, Tottenham are away, aren't they, at Zagreb? So Arsenal have a bit more rest in their favour there. And the other thing with Aubameyang is that if he usually sort of drifts to the left-hand side, and West Ham concede most of their chances down that side. So I think that could be, I think if he's probably the most likely player to, I guess after Kane, you'd probably say the player with the most explosive potential would be Aubameyang, which is reflected in his price. And then I guess the main player I've gone for that you haven't is Lingard, because his stats over the last few, like, he obviously didn't play against United, but in his last 4 games, he's had 8 shots on target, which is more than Kane. So him having a good game seems to be what's helped drive West Ham recently. So I think if it's between him and a Brighton midfield, I'd lean towards Lingard, even though West Ham have got a tougher fixture. And in the past, when Lingard's been at Arsenal, he's always seemed to sort of be up for playing against Arsenal. That would tend to be, like, earlier on in his career, sort of one of the good games in a season that he'd have for United. Rafinha, like, you've covered Rafinha. I think he's the main creation threat at Leeds now. His expected goal involvement's higher than quite a lot of other players. So I think he'd be the only one I'd go for in terms of a Leeds attacker this week. I think Bamford's numbers have dropped off, which is why I haven't gone for him. Not necessarily just because of the injury doubt, but I just think Rafinha's the better option. And then I've got Bale in reluctantly. I'm not that keen on Bale, as I was saying at the start of the podcast. I think he's kind of just there just because I think everybody's going to have him on free hit. So that's the only reason, really. And I couldn't really think who else apart from adding in one of the Brighton boys. So yeah, Bale's there. And then Kane goes without saying. I think most people will have him captain this week. So very risky to go with that Kane. And then if Grealish is back, I think that makes Watkins a great option this week. Tottenham's defence hasn't been good all season, and they haven't been able to nail down, like, a decent option at their left back position. It's been sort of rotating between Doherty and Aurier, and neither of them have played well whenever they've had a run in the team. So if Grealish is back and running at that side, I think the amount of chances that Watkins will have will go through the roof. So he's sort of been looking like the only player that's going to do something for Villa the past few weeks. And I think Grealish back will just come at the right time for him this week. So that's my free hit draft. Your turn to rip into it.
Very, very good point to put across. Trying to think what stands out other than the fact you've talked down Bale for the whole pod and then put him in your free hit team. What's going on there?
I guess it's the fear pick, just because you know what he can do. But the only reason I am down on him is I just think he won't get 90, and Aston Villa can keep it tight, can't they? So yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think your team, there's aspects to it that I'd probably like over mine. I think Tierney pick's good. Yeah, I think Lingard is an interesting shout as well. You talked about West Ham not playing too great last weekend, but they really were affected by him. They kind of set up with 3 holding midfielders, didn't they? So I fancy them to be able to get at Arsenal. I'm trying to think what question. no real questions really stand out as such. Yeah, good team. Other than the fact that I wouldn't be playing Martinez as my keeper if I was playing
Right.
free hit. That's
Fair
an interesting one.
So you reckon some of my outfield picks are going to end up in your team? You're just going to copy this free hit team for yours now, aren't you?
That's the only reason I do the pod, just to copy your team. I think Dunk, Cresswell, Tierney, Ober, Lingard, Rafinha and Bale, but I had most of them on my team. Kane, and then the Watkins one, I'm not really sold on. I kind of like the Madja shout just for 1 week punt against that Leeds defense. I think that's something I'll go with.
So that sort of segues us into the three differentials for the week. So just because you've touched on Madja, for my differential striker for the week, I've gone for Madja. But yeah, so the way I did it was that my three differentials were players that weren't in my draft, whereas I guess you've done it a bit differently, haven't you? But yeah, I'll finish mine. So my differential midfielder is Pascal Gross. He's the top for expected goal involvement for Brighton's midfielders. So I think for people who are looking to sort of go all in on Brighton if this game against Newcastle, it's between him and Trossard, really, isn't it, for the midfielder option?
Yeah, the only thing that go against that I said in my team is that he did take up that wing back position with Dan Burn going off with a hamstring injury, so that's probably one I'd keep an eye on. He might not be playing as far forward as what them stats suggest.
Right.
But he will be on penalties, won't he? So that is one thing that goes in your favour.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point to touch on while we're at. Who is on Brighton's penalties? Because didn't Gross and Welbeck both miss in the same game? That just sums up Brighton, doesn't it? The fact they missed 2 penalties in a game with 2 different players.
Has anyone scored one? I always thought it was Gross. Even Mopai's missed one, hasn't he, this year?
So I don't know. If it's like a rotation policy until someone manages to score one, it could end up being Trossard, or maybe it'll go back to Mopai. I don't know. It's a bit of a minefield, that. And then my differential defender is Reguilon. I couldn't really think who else to go for, and I think Matty Cash is still out for Villa, isn't he?
He was in the squad the last game.
So he's in the squad, right? That puts me off Reguilon, actually. But yeah, the reason that I fancy him a little bit is because I thought he'd be on El Mohammedi's side. But yeah, if Matty Cash is back, actually, yeah, if Matty Cash is back and Grealish is back, I think Aston Villa could they could be back to their old selves against Spurs this week, because Matty Cash is big for them on that side. And yeah, we've targeted El Mohammedi for bookings in the past. So if he's out of the team, that does make them a lot stronger. But yeah, anyway, I'll let you get into it. Who are your 3 differentials?
No, well, Grealish isn't really a differential, but he's not someone I've got in my team. But if he is past fit, especially Dean Smith, I know he's had a bit of a shocker with Grealish, hasn't he? Because he said, we all know the story of him saying he's not fit. These rumours on FPL that he's out for 4 weeks aren't true. He might be fit this weekend. This might be the week where he's finally back, and it was 4 weeks. We're watching what FPL said, so he's had a bit of a shocker there. But yeah, if he's back, then he might be one that I put him a free hit. The other one that I looked at midfield was Odegaard. I think he's had a really good start to his Arsenal career, and his points, he's doing quite well on FPL. So he's probably one that I'd keep an eye on the Europa League minutes this week, because I know Arsenal, is it 3-1 they're up and playing home? So there'll be a few players that are rested for the weekend, hopefully. So they might be ones that get on. And then I know I've got Duncan, but any Brighton differential, if I'm on my free hit, then I advocate 100% doubling up on the Brighton defence. I know you say they might have a shocker, but on paper, I think they're best for a clean sheet just because of how out of sorts Newcastle are.
No, what I'm saying with Brighton is that I don't think they'll have a shocker, but I just think they'll win 2-1 or something like that. Like, it'll be...
Yeah, fair enough. I think if you're playing free hit, you've got to double up on the Brighton defence. You've got to.
So, would you go a Brighton defender over one of Cresswell and Tierney? Like, which one of Cresswell and Tierney would you go for to make room for having the
double up? I think what makes it easier is the keeper. if you have the keeper and then one
Right,
defender.
okay.
I think that's the easiest way to get around it. But yeah, like you said, Cresswell, top defender in the FPL points. You want to get him in, don't you? So yeah, I think the easiest one is the keeper and any defender. Yeah.
Fair play. Right. So I think that's that, isn't it? Do we have time to go through the questions, you reckon, or do you need to get back?
I probably need to get back, but let's. Is there just a few couple ones? Let's just run through them.
Right, we won't give them. We won't go into much detail. I think a few of them are just silly as well. So first one is Mindy trying to become a talking head. I guess you're best placed to answer that one. Do you think this ray of sunshine will be on Football Focus anytime soon?
Well, you started to become a celebrity, haven't you, with your YouTube performance at the weekend? Apparently, your mic was on mute for the whole thing, but
what was it?
I was just joking that you didn't get much.
Oh yeah, God. Yeah, I didn't. It's the first time I've done a live one where you sort of live on YouTube, and it's a bit of a different dynamic to when you can just butt in and talk over you on this one. I was trying to be polite, just so I get invited back. But yeah, next time I'll be making sure I run my mouth a bit more.
All right, next one after the international break.
Before we move on, actually, just want to say
I need to get back.
You bottled your opportunity to get on, and you were scared to go on without me the week before when they wanted someone for the City game.
I was busy, mate. I was busy. Fortunately, yeah. I'll appear. Don't you worry. I'll steer the ship. Next one after the international break. Is it time to bring back Flobber because he's going to be in the shop window? That's one from Aaron.
Yeah, this is the Graham Souness of our WhatsApp group. Just obsessed with Pogba. I think it is good for United that Pogba will be back. I think it'll help United have a stronger end to the season. So just makes the United options even better when Pogba comes back. I wouldn't put Pogba back in necessarily, but I think it makes Shaw and Fernandes and the other FPL options better players. Question from Josh: when will Mindy's tips be making an appearance again?
Yeah, that kind of died a death. What's your 3 tips for this weekend? Go on. 3 quick tips from Mindy. All right, don't rush.
I've been giving tips all podcast. I give them on every week. I think the thing that made that one was that the thing that made that thing a thing was that was the week when I said don't have your captains from the same team, and it ended up being a week where there was a game postponed or something, and there were people that ended up with having no captain or vice captain because of exactly the reason I said, which just made that sort of coincidence.
All right, sure.
Good coincidence that week. But yeah, it's hard to sort of just say what the top tip is when you've been giving out gold all podcast, Maybe we'll try to bring that back at some point.
All right, well,
what's the last one?
The last one is thoughts on Aubameyang. Will he play or stay dropped? I think Arteta wanted to draw a line under it straight away, so I think he'll be back.
Yeah, I think he's been pictured in training and stuff again, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I know
Arsenal won that game, but Aubameyang was playing well before that. I just think that Arteta wanted to make a point and get a bit of respect in the dressing room. I think he didn't want to be shown as a light touch if he's turning up late and the whole squad starts to turn up late. So yeah, I think he'll draw a line under it personally.
The other thing that helps is I think Saka's a doubt, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's an option that someone who could potentially play instead of in the attacking positions. Like that's if they lose Saka, I don't think they can really afford to hold a grudge on Auba. They'll have to play him, I reckon. So, but yeah, one to watch. See how many minutes he gets tonight. If he gets full 90 tonight, that might make me a bit nervous. So keep an eye on the Europa League tonight. And that's it. We'll let you run off.
Working from home, run off to my desk that is here. But yeah.
Good luck if you're playing your free hit this week. And yeah, we'll be back next week to see how it all went, and then start talking about wildcard drafts.
Yeah, go well. And I suppose hope people playing the free hits that it is going to be a great game week and not Mindy's downward look on it. Hopefully.
Well, all I'm saying is 5 defenders, 5 clean sheets, nailed on this week. That's what I'm saying. All right, well, we'll leave it there. See you next week.
If you can get 6 defenders in, get them in.
All right, in a bit.
Week.